is 1/1/2020. Officially, we've made it. And it is one of my absolute favorite things on the planet to gather and to be in circle, in tribe, in connection. So I bow to you from the deepest place that I can touch in me. That's the place that from where I speak, from where I love, and from where I invite you to come from that deep place as well. Because that's who I speak to when we gather in circle and in tribe. Happy New Year. I've asked the live participants to get onto their backs. We had a moment, a few minutes actually, introducing ourselves and offering intentions. And I'll bring them in through the sequence and the practice this morning as a way of honoring their beautiful live souls. But I just want you to recognize right now, every single one of you that sees this live in the moment, watches the replay, that you've done amazing things. And there's only more awaiting you. Please touch yourself. Place your hands on your body. Where do you intuitively go? Where do you feel a sense of healing when you give yourself touch, love, soothing, swaddling? When you give yourself a moment of connection to self, it's literally laying of hands. If you can get skin, even better. There is a level of stillness that will be required in the capacity to dilate. And the breath is a beautiful practice to start the inquiry. The breath, it unfolds itself and has the entire life cycle of existence in each pulse, from birth through life into death. Every inhale, dilation to contraction, offers us all the wisdom we need, because it can only live. Each breath, each cycle can only exist in the present moment. So however this breath unfolds is perfect for what right now embodies and holds for you. Make a little space in your body. That's what this is all about. Move in a way that affords more expansion in the ribs. Maybe you've noticed that the hardness of the floor underneath your spine has given way to some discomfort. So you can always create a little cushion for yourself on your sacrum by lifting and pulling the flesh glute buttocks towards the bone, the tail, and the sacrum. You actually create a nice little soft cushion. And it affords an opening in the belly as well. So with your feet down, looks like each of you all have your knees bent, which is perfect. With your feet on the floor, knees bent, I just want you to gently connect. Just as your hands are laying on your own skin, connect your feet to the earth. Don't miss that step, please. Don't blow past these moments. And again, presence and focus, two of the intentions from our tribe here this morning. Presence and focus are required if you're going to dilate proportionally. An opening that happens from the middle in every direction equally. So as you allow the arms to now move into the front of the body, I encourage you to give yourself a hug. And the way I teach is that you bring one hand to the bottom of your ribs, the opposite side waist, and one hand to the front of your deltoid, cupping over the front of your shoulder. Opposite, crossing midline, you allow for the hemispheres of the brain to get into the equation. And because we're always offering an expansion, dilation, please start to wiggle again, side to side as a way of making more space. Not the knees or hips so much right now. Start with the middle of the ribs. Just let the rib cage start to inchworm in two directions. Wide, moving away from the spine, and long, extending from the base ribs up through the crown, away from the pelvis. So you're opening the rib cage wide. Breathe into both of your hands. You're welcome to switch. You're welcome to adjust. You're very welcome to get your fingers into the quality of your tissues and literally, please, breathe into the boundary of your hands. breathe against the bone of your ribs. And don't miss this step. There's information. There's you building relationship. Even when you make those little adjustments to accommodate more space, to accommodate the feedback of the body, what you're doing is affording the breath to be the first and foremost partner in your practice. As you move into depth, without this, you're on a tightrope. Without this rhythm, you're hanging in the wind. Without this confident stability of the breath, you're living in a surface, superficial expression of the moment. Please take a moment to make as much length between the pelvis and the ribs. And then it's a little trickier. Bring your hands to your neck and make a little more space from the neck to the head. Try to move and elongate along the spine, remembering that the longest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. So really feel the natural wave pattern of your back body as you wiggle the pelvis towards your feet, as you broaden the ribs out in every direction. Really emphasize the widening of the ribs. Your arm placement is constantly supporting that opening. And then make the neck and the head lengthen out a little bit longer. And guess what? The first time you offered this opening for your body, you met a boundary. But then you held it, you breathed into it, you stayed with it, and now your body can open into that even a little bit more. Now start to stretch. Push your legs out in front of you and your arms out overhead. Reach your body as long as you can. We didn't start with this stretch because we wanted to make the real movement between the trunk of the body, between the base of the spine and the top of the spine. So now as the arms and the legs are involved, reach a little bit more through the right arm and the left leg. And then reach a little bit more through the left arm and the right leg. And please keep doing this. You can lift and lower the arms, or you can just make it a subtle movement that allows the shoulder blade scapulas to glide along the back, lengthening the skin along the back of your body, lengthening the spine, and then pushing through the legs, pushing through the glutes, noticing what happens at the very deepest center, what's going on in the belly while you do this. Notice if as the arms went overhead, you've lost the fullness in the back of the heart. Take the arms up to the ceiling for a moment. Hold on to 2 ropes. Really let the fingers be over a soft grip, holding these ropes, and then feel the arms being pulled to the ceiling and let your head get heavier all the while. Notice right here, you can make more space. The back of the ribs can broaden. You can extend a little bit further away from the hips. Now push through the legs as you reach your arms halfway back. Not all the way, but feel this reach coming through your fingertips. But to dilate, you have to reach overhead as much as you're rooting down into the earth. So what happened as you started to extend the arms towards the ears in the middle, in the trunk of the body? Keep pushing right leg, left arm, left leg, right arm. Maybe the biceps reach a little bit further behind you, but not at the expense of the fullness inside the very trunk of the body. Grow as long as you can like you're being drawn and quartered. Yeah, Nicole's moving the legs a little bit apart. Let the arms go a touch wider. Feel that V vector angling of the legs and the arms coming from the very, very center of the belly. Soften through the face if you can. The teeth don't need to work. The forehead is soft. Let the ribs come against the floor so you connect the back of your heart, and then open through feet, through arms, through head. Stretch from the belly in every direction. Breathe into it. Normalize this open shape and feel the places that are usually closed. We're going to stay here for a few more rounds of breath. Can you meet the boundary? Can you breathe against all sides? Keep reaching through the legs. Keep reaching through the arms and filling the space on the inside with presence, with focus, with breath. Normalize an opening. In the soft underbelly and the tickle spots, let the throat open. Let the armpits open. Let the pelvic floor open. Let the inner eye open wide as you look deep into the center of your brain. Fill it. Feel the light and bring your knees into your chest. Allow yourself to hug in tight. Close in. Come back. Come back into a space that allows the full spectrum of movement. That's a pretty big range of motion. Stretching all the way open and then bringing the knees into the chest. Naturally, some of you rock and roll. Please, as you do that, imagine the back of your heart swaddling yourself. Imagine the tissues between the shoulder blades, the tissues that run from the bottom of the ribs up to the neck, are swaddling around you like the back of the heart, at the back of the heart. Can you even hold opposite elbows? Can you pull the knees in tight? Yeah, can you actually hollow the front of your body as a way to more form into the back fullness? Keep rocking a little side to side. And notice that you can still even here eke out more fullness and distance between the ribs, the back of the hips, and the back of the heart. Soften the feet, soften the face. As you're holding against the knees, either opposite knee or crossing arms to make it tight, tight, see how the breath has something to expand into. See how the belly opening really pushes against the thighs, and immediately you feel the back of the heart. The tightness here allows you to actually access the strength that lives on the invisible parts, the back and the inside. See if for just the tiniest moment, if it feels safe, if you feel supported from the ribs, you can allow the neck and shoulders to peel up off the floor and maybe even pull in a little tighter. All the way into the fetal position, all the way into the curve. You don't have to just strain the front of your neck to lift your head off the floor. You can actually feel that's the back of your heart that's lengthening. The back of your neck that lengthens as your head rises. Maggie's even supporting like a cradle the back of the head. But you can imagine that there's an engagement at the core of the body and the core where the six-pack lives. But what if you really created this curling in action from behind you? And then as you start to desire that opening, please go mindfully along the vertical axis of your body. Start to open the belly as you tip your pelvis. And then lengthen through the spine as you start to open your throat again. Let the head come back to the earth. Curling all the way in and then opening all the way back out to the V-vector shape, a 5-pointed star of you. So you curl into the very center and then you push out in that dilating way. Just try this a couple of times, explore it. There's a whole lot of ways that you can play. Tight, rounded, curled, strong on the front of your body, really pulling that energy in tight, or open, wide, expansive. This full spectrum of motion, it doesn't seem like something so extraordinary, but as you allow yourself to explore that full range, suddenly you have a new relationship with every single point in between, an opening and an expansion. Now the intention is always to dilate, always to open. But sometimes when we open too fast, we're hanging in the winds. We don't have the support. So one more time before we start to move again, pull your knees into your belly, get really small. Get really strong by connecting to the core of your body. And that means a lot to a lot of people. Crunches are the number one, right? Any core work is how we tend to relate to this place. But for this moment, as you hollow the front of your body against the back of your body, feel that you are fortifying yourself, just like you took nourishment in from the belly button through the umbilical cord. Make that area deeply connected to the spine, to the back of the ribs, to the fullness. And from that, please don't lose the connection. Open wide, reach out in all directions, and then roll over onto your left side, please. As you roll, take your time to explore that movement, that spiraling action, that allowance of each vertebra to start to articulate. It's easy to move in all one clump, especially when you have a goal. You just throw yourself there and hurl through space, right? Start to tip your head back once you're on the right side and bring your hands to the side of your head. Sorry, left side. Sorry. Bring your hands to the side of your head, but let your head fall back. Now, if you have any limitation in your shoulders, just do your top arm behind your head or bring your top hand to the floor and let your throat open. Just allow the head to move without resistance. But as you allow the head to tip backward, feel how in that moment, the whole front of the body starts to open and awaken. Now I want you to feel the ability to articulate along your whole vertical axis. So let the head literally cascade. It kickstarts a spiraling motion to come onto your back. The weight of your skull starts to move and articulate the cervical spine. And then you can allow the arms to reach to the ceiling to get more articulation through the very upper part of your ribs. You're rolling back onto the spine. And then there's a slow weight of the rib cage that allows the belly to come along, then the hips, and then for last, the knees. And you come all the way through the center, and then the weight of your knees complete the spiral over to the other side. Knees heavy, but the head stays heavy in opposition. And then you allow each little vertebra, like the string of pearls that it is, to start to uncoil, to spiral, to slowly move, and give yourself space even more than you thought you had along your vertical axis. Once you're over on the right side, bring your hands behind the ears and lay against the fingertips. Let it feel like a hammock. Breathe. Once you're on the right side and you're opening the front of your body, start to get comfortable with this open position. Start to get familiar by allowing your back to engage and to hold you, which gives you more confidence to open up. And then we're just going to do that spiral one more time. From where you are on the right side, the head leads the way and you go as slow as you ever have before. And then the neck starts to spiral, which gives way to the shoulders, arms to sky. And as you spiral through each of your ribs, 12 vertebrae in the thoracic, let the belly stretch. And then the hips come, and then the knees. And you roll it all the way over onto your left. Slow. There's no need to rush through this, even though the goal of just one is out there. Give yourself the ability to be in the process. Close your eyes, go to the breath, and let each spiral teach you something new. Let each moment of going deeper through all the many layers of you, because there are many, 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 many layers, just on the physical even. But we know that we are fully dimensional beings, so we don't want to miss the subtle messaging, the subtle relationship to inner guidance. You're going to end up on the right side again, all the way over onto the right. And once we're there, enjoy the breath and just notice the sensations of what you feel. It's all part of the practice, to build a sensitivity to actually notice the effects and the results that you are causing. Once you're on the right side, take a moment to consider again the word you have for this year. Maybe it's a novel, but try to condense it. Focus, presence, organization, boundaries, excitement. And consider that condensed nugget, that very dense core of an intention that you can return to for all year long. You don't just remember this for 2 weeks or 2 days. Hopefully you hold on to it as dense as it is, and you can return to it. Just as we spiraled through the vertebra of the spine, I want you to regulate, start to feel one side of the spine at a time. So we're going to come up, but the head will be the last thing. Place your top hand into the floor and lift your bottom ribs. Lift the bottom of the left side waist off the floor and drag your left arm along as you start to articulate the right side of your spine. Beautiful, Maggie. It should feel amazing. Now, if you notice the head kickstarts everything, try it again. Well, everybody, try it again. Tip your ear to your bicep first. Let the weight of your top hand hold you, but resist the ribs to the sky as you start to slide onto that right side one more time. We're just sticking with the right side for now. Yeah, good. I want you to feel the difference after you do it 1 or 2 times, Maggie, on this side. So really play with the places that are sticky. Don't just push through them to get to the movement, the really mobile places. This is all part of our learning. Really good, Nicole. Feel how the bottom ribs would rather stay very tight, closed, and not move at all. Please spend some time with your breath in that area. Push against the hand to lift and stretch the tissues like taffy. It will feel like something's happening. You will feel the stretch as you get deeper and deeper into the layers. One more time, please, on the right side. Let your head stay heavy on it. Keep the ear connected to the bicep throughout, and see if you can feel the neck stretch until you get all the way up to that vertical spine. Once you're back up, sitting on the right hip, just take a moment and get a little bit more organized. Always great to reassess after a transition. And move, so we came up off the right side. So you're gonna move your left knee behind the right foot. Sitting on the right hip, you're kind of creating this little asymmetry in your seat. Now, if you're sitting and you can't, if you're coming up off the floor and you can't sit like this, if it's going to be a practice, if you're watching later, where you just come to a chair, then by all means, just step with your feet and your knees as wide as possible, and we'll start to get into the hips. And you can do exactly what we're going to do by this self-touch moment, right? Please bring your hands into the creases of your hips. And I want you to rock forward. Try to balance on your shins. You actually lift your butt off of your seat and then come back down, rooting your pubic bone back, really allowing the groin line to go from the outer hip in towards the pubis. You're really directing to open up the bottom of your spine, the bottom of your hips, the sacrum. While you're there, move the flesh like clay, mold it. You're actually going to move the quadriceps, the top of your legs in, and then the back of your legs out, longer, lengthening the back of your hamstrings and glutes. You're literally organizing not only your skeleton, but organizing the tissues to support your intention to sit upright, to sit up tall. Can you hold your knees? And just in that connection, let your fingers soften, let your face soften. Lift up tall. Once you're supporting yourself, the ability to sit up is actually pretty comfortable. So just sitting, holding the knees, allowing an upward rise through the spine, but just giving yourself this sense. And if you need to sit in a chair, then just hold your knees, right? Give yourself that capacity to be right there, Ruth, you've got it. Now, all of your 10 fingers, please make them connect and close your eyes. This is a completely asymmetrical shape. So just be in the imbalance of it. Be in the awkwardness and see if you can notice the difference in each sit bone. One's probably lifted higher. Notice the difference in the ribs. They're going to be even torqued a little bit. One more full, one dropping, one rotating. And even the crown, the head might even feel a little bit off kilter. So just give yourself the chance to feel it. And then we're going to come over and do the other side. So you're rolling onto your left hip. The right hand will support you, and please roll up and down a few moments or a few times, one vertebra at a time. I like to keep that top leg a little bit extended backward so that you can really use that as a foundation to rely on as you focus on slowing down the journey up and down to lay onto this side. And you're really focusing on the stretch on the opposite, the top ribs, the top side of central channel, right? But you're taking the time to really feel that, oh, this is quite different than the first side. Oh, I notice I want to go a lot faster on this side and avoid the opening of the ribs, right? The ability to start to teach yourself how to get up and down off the floor in a way that doesn't put any unnecessary pressure through your skeleton creates a whole lot of power, presence, and focus in your day-to-day life. Because just imagine if your practice started the second you woke up in the morning and you never had to step onto your yoga mat. The practice starts the second you start to be embodied in your skeleton. Start to feel that balance between the two sides as you rise up slow, ear to bicep, and roll down slow, coming up. After you feel balanced, you're going to be on that left hip and the right knee a little bit behind you. Take the time to assess and organize and feel. Give yourself the chance to breathe into the awkward, into the imbalanced, into the asymmetry. And once you feel a little bit open, a little bit organized, then you can start to massage and mold your glutes, your hamstrings. Now, if this is really tricky, I can't see you guys. If you need a lot of help with the hip opening stuff, Chris, then I would just encourage blocks or blankets or some lift up under your hips. But the idea is with this asymmetry is you start to feel what does it take to actually keep the low back curve, to keep that natural undulating rise out of the pelvis. And it is undulating because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And we're trying to lengthen our connection between earth and sky. We're actually trying to allow that energy to grow and unfurl, uncoil itself like a snake. That's that kundalini that's so iconic in our world. but we have to make sure that we're able to dilate, and when we open proportionally, we become such more stronger conduits for more energy to move through us, right? We're literally plugging in to be able to filter through more voltage, basically, through our nervous system, through our spine, because we're so fortified from the inside. A couple of lifts and tips of your hips, moving again the tissues in the way that allows more rotation for your pelvis, truly. But we're really organizing the femurs, the legs in the socket to be able to sit. And again, if you need to lift up onto 2 blocks or a bolster, this is a really great practice to be able to support yourself and still create the shape in the hips. All right, and then hold on to the knees. Pull very gently against the knees and lift up tall. Not just through your chin. In fact, I want you to close your eyes for a second and just go up and down with your chin, up and down. Just lift and lower, and you might even notice a really good stretch on the front of the throat. You can enjoy that. But notice how when you just lift and lower the chin, a whole lot of stuff gets left behind. It's pretty localized. Yeah, I love you, Otto. You're always so agreeable. She's like, I feel it. I know it. All right, now pause moving the head, please. And I want you to actually bring it down towards the chest and try to move backwards into the back of your heart. Pull against the knees still and move a little left and right. And whether you're sitting in a chair or on the floor, you just hold the knees and gently curl into yourself. Then when you start to lift, please lift the back first. Lift the openness behind you, and then let the chest rise, and the head is the very last thing to come up. I just want you to do this 2 or 3 times. Chin down to chest, gently let the front ribs move against the back body, and then start to pull yourself back up, letting the chin be the last thing that leads, or the last thing that lifts. Good, Chris. When you pull against the knees, can you feel more of that broad hammock behind the heart? Can you really lean into those tissues and find more space? You curl down just a few vertebrae. You don't have to go all the way down and up, but then curl back up and feel yourself starting to open from the back, and then the front beautifully expresses itself. Oh, so good. All right, now let yourself be at center, and I want you to put both hands behind you if you can. And again, if you're on a chair, what you can do to get the asymmetry is just cross an ankle over a knee. So it would look like this sitting in your chair, right? And as you do that, you're gonna get some nice hip opening. But if you're able to be on the floor with me, hands behind the hips, I actually want you to start to move your knees from side to side. Just real basic. You don't have to put a lot of weight into your arms because you don't want to slouch. See if you can even stay up on fingertips here so that your belly is lifting, your ribs are supporting themselves. But I want you to just notice the movement inside the thigh bone, right? And if you're sitting, just the capacity to move the knee in and move the knee out is really helpful. And in this moment, you're just lubricating, right? You're just bringing like WD-40 all the way up into those joints. Nothing wrong with the hips getting a little bit of lube because they can tend to be kind of creaky, right? So if you're meeting the creakiness, you're in the right place. This is what we're here for. All right, roll over to your favorite hip, and let's come into a tabletop position, please. Real basic, real familiar, all fours shape. Now there's a moment where you simply allow your body to be in the shape, but then you start to notice nuance, and I want you to take control at that point. Put yourself in a position where you really work the refinements. Your fingers come a little bit closer together to create more powerful grip in your hands. Sit back, and even if you're still in a chair, you can put your arms straight out in front of you and build a lot of bone density just here. But if you're on the floor, hands in connection, then start to really work your grip as if you're trying to squeeze the mat up underneath you, or the whatever space you're on, you're squeezing that up into your hand, and feel the power of your palms light up. Feel that connection as you push your hips back a little bit more to the whole line of connection from your fingertips to your belly. Come forward and backward a couple of times, and you can let the spine round and open. You can move it side to side. But I just want you to play along that root rise axis, A-X-I-S. I teach a class now every Friday for the first 3 months of this year that is focused on central axis. the whole vertical column. So as you're rooting rising, moving your hips back and stretching your belly forward, you're moving along this vertical frequency, this spiral of energy from the pelvis through the crown. Now, when you add the diversion of a little side to side like a snake body, as you move back and forth, you're starting to move in interdimensions, right? You're giving yourself that play of feeling into the x-axis as you start to open on the y. The longitude remains. Keep moving forward, keep moving backward. Keep yourself in that pulse. But then explore the barrel movements of the ribs, the heavy rotation of the head. Don't just drop your head, move it around. And then the real juicy bits, get your hips to start to move. Tuck your tail, lift it, wag it left, tuck it, wag it right, open it. There's all the ways. You can even make a big figure 8 with your tailbone. And if you're just on the chair or standing, you can do all of this the same. Can you move your ribs, your hips, and your head as independent pieces of your spine? You're not just one block. You are a pliable, fluid being. And as you play inside of the boundaries, guess what? They change. They pull crazy taut, crazy strong. And in that, you start to meet how much you're really capable of, how much you can really hold. Good. Couple more movements. Yeah, if you want to lift your knees up off the floor and feel more weight in the arms and more power in the legs, do that. Some call it down dog, some call it crouching cat. I call it a process. This damn thing is hard. This is not an easy pose. To be able to lift your hips, lift your knees, and not dump into one part, that's not dilating. Dumping into, martyring an area of the body. Lift away from the floor here, no matter where you are. If you're in table or if you're lifting with your knees, lift your heart away from the floor. Step wide more with your feet. So as you separate, the foundation gets more open. You can lift and expand your pelvis. You can open through the pelvic floor. Good. Let the head go. Let the ribs go side to side. Couple more breaths just exploring the root rise vertical column and the side to side pulse of your own inner snake. And then slowly again coming back to all fours, give yourself a chance to breathe, pause to feel, but don't get heavy. Nice, Maggie. All fours shape is a position that can easily get heavy and boring. But if you activate and dilate on the inside, starting to stretch the vertical axis open first and then going into the arms and the legs to support, you can start dripping sweat in this position. Not because you're just six-pack crunching, but because you're swaddling the entire body, that you create a sweat in your fascia. You literally hug on to the skeleton of the bone. Press your fingertips into the floor. Squeeze the bottoms of your feet and start to feel the awakening up your arms and legs. Hug onto the bone in a way that allows strength, in a way that allows a sense of toning from the edges of your skin. Squeeze like you have a wetsuit on. From the feet, pull the energy up the legs. But you've made so much space along the vertical axis that you're not contracting, you're still dilating. Let's take a twist. I'm trying to actually take that word out of my vocabulary and use more spiral. Bring your right arm underneath, just thread it through. And as you thread it, give yourself the opportunity to really align and take some weight into your left hand. Now first, go ahead and bring your right shoulder to the floor. Bring your head down. Many of you have heard me teach this with the head and the shoulders hovering, and we're going to do that in a second. But I want it to feel kind of good. Tendency is to make the easy things quite complex. But when you make the easy things more focused, you bring more presence to the day-to-day, everyday activities, that's when everything else becomes easier. So the thought of unraveling or a spiraling into this twist, I want you to really create a sense of rotation from the base. Separate your knees and feet a little bit wider. Tops of the feet are down. And as you reach the right arm a little bit further, don't just reach from your shoulder. Reach from the lowest side of your belly, the right belly, as you can start to. And that rotation moves through the whole of your ribs, then the neck, and guess what? Your head actually starts to lay backward. You start to spiral so far open, push into that left hand. Lean back into the full hammock behind your heart, and then start to lift the bottom arm, the bottom ear. I want you to actually hover off the floor. The hand stays in contact. The left elbow is bent wide and pushing forward. And then as you slide the right arm even a little bit further out, don't get heavy again. Stay lofty and lift your left ribs even higher, your head tips lower. You start to stretch your belly forward and your throat opens long, 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 and you can spiral open. Twist around your deepest core a little bit more. With the left hand holding against the floor and you resisting, laying back, you start to give rise, give stretch, give tone to the open wings at the back of your heart. Breathe into them, stretch across the shoulder blades, lean into the full ribs for one more cycle of inhale. Stay dilated even as you exhale. And then let the fullness of your heart bring you back to all fours. Pause to feel in the middle. Move it around a subtle bit through the spine, noticing the length and the expansion that just happened one side. Normalize it, equalize it, bring it into the center. When you pause to notice these moments, you come into a shape and then you come out of the shape as all a practice of the pose itself. Then you begin to understand more sensitively the difference in each side and learn the language of your body, which is the feedback and the sensations that it offers you. Let's take a little bit more space for this one. Nicole, you actually look pretty good in your distance, nice and long, and then a little bit wide. So everybody open up your all fours position a little bit more. And then once you have that space, notice if you just got heavy, hanging a little bit in your shoulders, lift the ribs, lift the hips, and lift the head. And then take your opposite arm underneath. Spiral. As you turn open to the right, your left arm threads underneath. Go ahead and let your shoulder and head come first, touching the earth, allowing a little bit of surrender into the weight of your body. Letting just the general position give you some space to practice breath. We want to practice breath when you're less engaged, right? When you're under less stress, so that as you start to increase the stress on your body, you don't contract. You add more engagement, but the inner body dilates more. That's the beautiful relationship to creating boundaries and then pushing past them. So feel the breath in, into the shape. Open up into all directions and then let the head spiral backwards. Tip the ears back to open through the whole front of your body. Use that right arm strong. And then imagine you're holding that rope again with your left hand. Let it pull from the back of your heart. And then lay back, lay back, lay back, and start to hover the left shoulder. Tipping the head down even more. Lift the right side ribs up a lot. Feel your whole top ribs arc. Open, expand, push, and then lean back. You lay into the fullness behind the shoulder blades, between the shoulder blades. The head can tip heavy, heavy, heavy. And from there, the left arm can slide a little bit further. The base ribs can spiral. Notice if the belly is contracting on itself, get longer. Let your belly twist and stretch even more open from this position. Don't just come into it and out of it and call it done. Come into it, explore it, and let it change. And then when you feel that you can hold this expansion, you can normalize this on the way out. Don't go too far in. A beautiful friend of mine always says, just leave enough gas in the tank to get home safely. Come on back to center without collapse, without the dramatic exhale of, oh, I pushed it too hard and now I'm going to feel it tomorrow. We know our boundaries because we know when to call it. We know what we do have are positive limitations. Feel the normalizing, wiggle out your snake body. Take some time to create more space between the hips, the ribs, and the head. Feel that moment where the dilation happens in 360. Starting from the ribs, they lift and open. The hardest is side to side. right? I really think the sides of the body are so tight, perpetually dark and closed with our elbows pinned in, that to widen the ribs left to right is the biggest challenge. So allow yourself to open up, even a little, exaggerate your side bending to stretch like an accordion each side of rib cage. And then lift the back of the heart equally, not that the head drops, but that you just rise away from gravity. Notice with a little bend in your elbows, you can actually push a little bit more, some fullness in the heart. Now let the belly get long as you lift your glutes, lift your tailbone to the ceiling, and let the length come through the throat, lift your head. Keep the open shape and lift your knees. As your knees lift, keep a deep bend. Separate the feet to the edges, if not wider than your mat. As you get into a position, and if you're not going to go onto the floor, then come to a wall where you can actually start to put your hands at shoulder height and step your feet wide. So come to a wall if you can, Ruth, and push against something right at shoulder height so your arms are straight. In this position, I just want you to be. You can move, you can adjust, but I actually want you to, if you're still on the floor, you can stay in crouching cat if you'd rather. But I'm saying if you're not going to take weight in the arms, then please just come to a wall. Good. And I know you're still here. But my goal for you is to be in a position that you can sustain. This is hard. This is a position where you're under the most stress, and the easiest thing would be is to collapse. So go ahead and one more time, take the knees down, take a knee. Take a little humble moment for you to just go, okay, I did that whole thing with my front jaw or the front of my neck, and I want you to start to really use the back of your body to hold you into this shape. I want you to open the ribs, the hips, the head, and then allow the back of your body to be so strong that it's like a magnet off the floor. So you can bow a little bit into the back of your heart from tabletop or from standing at the wall. Push away from your hands. And in that, you use more of what's behind you. Then lift your glutes, get your power where it's meant to be, your behind is behind, and then stretch your head forward, lift your knees. As the knees come up off the floor, it's not grin and bear it, pull into brute force mode. It's actually starting to find grace. Can you be a little agile? Can you move all of the rib cage, the pelvis, and the head as separate units? And can you just feel the playfulness and the places that would rather not see the light of day? You can pivot the feet side to side. Even if you're standing at the wall with a little bend in the knees, you can start to turn and do a little twist. All right, knees side to side, and your hips start to lube up again. And every time your hips open, you get more vertical space. Every time you widen side to side, you can lengthen top to bottom. Good. Couple more times, moving and pulsing. And then I want you to hop and step your feet super wide apart. And everybody, whether you're on the mat or at the wall, come into a forward fold. Walk your hands back and please be heavy over your legs. If you can turn around, Ada, that'd be awesome, or maybe do profile. Profile is always the best for your online teacher, just so you know. If you guys can set your mats up to be profile, we always get the best perspectives. Once you're sideways, allow gravity to be there in a pretty heavy way. Let the neck go. Take little weight into the hands. Really shift into the legs so that your arms start to bend and the shoulders can drop towards the floor. Now you can even wrap around your legs. Megan's giving a really deep curl. But give yourself that chance to just extend and elongate through the spine. Now, being able to dilate, really, again, going back to the breath, it's sometimes you need a place of resistance to actually feel the places that would rather not open. So use this as a great opportunity to breathe against your legs, to feel the back of your body. Right? As you expand your belly into your thighs, the bottom back ribs can open. This is a dead zone for a lot of us. This is a place where the adrenals get so tight, get so engaged and gripped at the kidneys and the lumbar area that we normalize an epidemic of back pain. But I want you to really expand into this back heart area, the lowest rib cage, by belly breathing. We're really opening into that. 1 or 2 more rounds. Let the low back stretch a little bit. And then I want you to actually play with where the belly button is. Move it away from the spine. And then try to hollow the belly button into the spine and round yourself just a teeny bit more. And then relax that and move the belly away from the spine, almost like you're sticking your butt out, stretching your belly. And then pull the belly button into the spine and make the whole waistline hollow into the navel. Hollow the front ribs and the front hip points towards each other and feel how strong and condensed this core of you is, just like the intention for your new year. And then open the belly again, stretch the pubis back and the navel forward. One more time, curl. Doing it not from dropping the head, but starting from the waistline, starting from the navel, hollowing into the back. And this time, keep that sense of strength. Keep that sense of tone, of core engagement to the back of the body, and start to walk your hands forward, bend your knees more, open up the front. Keep your belly strong, but start to lift your sitting bones to the sky. Walk your hands out forward again and stretch your rib cage through your biceps. So you might have to turn on your mat if your mat's not profile, but what you start to unfurl is the core power from the navel center out through the hips and head. You dilate that along the vertical axis and notice if there's a different sense of holding in this position. Not the jaw, not the front shoulders, but an experience of radiating out from the deepest belly. One more time, keep the feet wide and walk back. And to come up, I want you to hold the side of your head again. Bring the elbows towards the navel, towards each other rather, and a little in towards the belly. And start to initiate the lift to standing from that same belly action. Core engagement into the spine and slowly curl. That's it, Nicole. I know it's totally different than what we normally do. But as you curl, the head coming very, very last. So good, Maggie. Feel how you can keep the core engaged even stronger for a longer amount of time before you go all the way open. And when you open, bend your knees again, send your hips back, stretch your head up to the ceiling, make it long. Push your arms out in that V vector angle. The legs are wide, your arms are wide, and you're reaching in 5 points. Press the head back, press the arms forward. Feel that front to back dimension. Move the ribs back and lay into that full heart. And then send your hips a little behind you to really get the power where it's meant to be. Chris, sit the butt behind. Get the butt out from underneath and then stretch up, 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 up. Because remember, the longest distance is a curvy line. Bring your hands to the side of your head again. Keep that sense of opening. Lift through the back of your heart and take it over to the side. Let the left side open as you arc to the right. And then rise up through center and let the right side open as you arc to the left. Keep your elbows in close. Keep the ribs, the hips, and the head moving into the back so your power can be there. And as you go side to side, lift up taller every time. Don't drop the ribs you're arcing towards. Allow that core toning to give you more lift and rising up to stretch up and over your pelvis. 2 or 3 more. Up as you come over. Keep your elbows in and lay back into yourself. Full heart, full power. Good. One more time back to center, and then just allow the arms to come down, lifting the heart. Step your feet in narrow. Keep the heart lifting. Close your eyes. Take a little soft bend in the knees. Maybe adjust your stance to feel just more like standing. There's only so much we can do in one day, in one practice, in 1 hour of time. We're just past an hour, so we'll probably go until about 1 o'clock Mountain Time. Let me check real quick. Yeah, we're just past 12:30. So if you have to pop off, blessings, I totally understand, but we're dilating, and I had kind of geared for a 90-minute practice. So I just want you to give yourself a chance to feel your legs, to feel standing, to be in your body in a minute, where you start to consider, maybe for the first time, but I know most of you, this isn't the first time you've been to this conversation, but really starting to feel into the dimensional openings, all of the degrees of you, right? So just place your hand over your heart and place one over your belly, not on your navel, but between the pubis and the belly button. And I want you to try to imagine with your eyes closed, moving backwards away from your hands. Feels a little bit weird. But as you hold the front of your body where your fists touch, lean back and try to find the back of your body at the same time. A little soft bend in the knees, a drop of your pubic bone, and then a leaning back of the whole trunk. It gives you a sense of destabilization. You're literally moving your center of gravity. Notice that your toes might want to flicker up off the floor. Glue them down. And as your toes glue down and you send your hips back, feel a little more engagement up the back of the legs. Just pump your legs up and down a little bit and ask more of what's behind you. Don't default on the front of the legs. That's just too easy. We're way beyond that. Sit back and ask the hamstrings to be strong. We're not just stretching our hamstrings anymore. We're really building power up the back of the legs. And once you have that again, rise up through the torso and float the arms from underneath to allow your fingers up to find those two ropes again. And it feels that you're reaching from the bottom of your heart. That's what we're looking for, that the extension comes from a dilating rib cage, not from a lift of your shoulders or a grip of your throat. Push the arms forward, lean the head back. Push the feet forward, send the hips back. Now squeeze your heels and let them hover off the floor. When they hover, let the whole back of your body hold you and see if you can lean a little bit further back. Not by letting your hips come forward, but by just playing a new edge. Guess what? If you fall over, extra points. If you want to play an even deeper edge, lower one heel and lift the other foot. And see if you can start to pulse that standing leg up and down to stretch and lay your upper body back just a little bit more. And if balance isn't there for you today, no worries, no big deal. But it's playful. I want you to keep the toes out of it, the knee bent up towards the belly, and the hips and the head moving back. And you just kind of create a little dynamic pulse, a little up and down, a little root rise to lay backward without letting the pelvis tuck under, without letting the ribs collapse, or without letting the head drop. One more breath in, place the foot down, and bring your hands down by the sides. I actually want you to interlace your fingers here. So the arms actually move forward of the ribs. Just interlacing here, notice which thumb is on top. And breathe into the back and the sides of your ribs. We're gonna do the other leg if you haven't. We're gonna do that one more time if you didn't do anything asymmetrical. We're just gonna do that same exact thing. So you can choose how wide you wanna step your feet. At the beginning, your balance is going to be a little more supported if it's wider. If your feet are close together, you're actually narrowing instead of dilating the pelvis, right? But as you become more advanced, you can bring your feet together and not close your pelvic floor, right? So there's ways to really keep growing always, no matter what level you're at. Stay open even as you straighten out, right? Because a lot of times we think that we have to go right away to the straight line, but we always want to keep that little curvature, that wave pattern, even as we create more and more straight or stretching the distance of the feet, of the legs, of the belly, and of the head. All right, one more time. Start to push your feet forward to send your hips back and reach your arms upward to lay your head and your heart back. It's this 5-pointed reach, whether you're wide in your stance or narrow, you're still pushing through both feet down and out. You're reaching through both arms up and out and leaning backward. When the heels start to lift up off the floor, let the wobbling be there. Be agile, be on your toes, be dynamic. Let the pulse start to come. Exhale, sit, inhale, rise. Feel that longitudinal vertical column get spacious, get stretched without straightening and without closing. So keep the back of your heart filling, keep the widening through your sitting bones and the expansion open through the head. Maybe shift one leg, lift the other one to find that baby back bend by lifting the knee up high, playing your balance, but smile as you do. And let yourself just start to lean against what's behind you and feel it's the back of you that's holding. Not your front groin, not your teeth. And then pulse it. Sit and stretch, root and rise. Try to square yourself, Ruth, to your knee so your hips are more square instead of open. It's going to give you more access at first. Opening the knees is actually more advanced for the hips. So square your body to your foot, to your knee, and you'll be able to open up a little bit more vertical. All right, Once you're back down, I want you to step it super wide and bring your hands to your knees. As you rest against your thighs, notice how easy it is to shrink back into your shell and contract. The neck easily disappears. The arms lock out and we just post into our skeleton. Bend a little bit into your elbows and like a hydraulics, push through the head and extend your central column longer, but don't lock out your elbows. Bend the elbows a touch and then push down into the knees to stretch up through the top of your skull. It's just like a little pulse, a little pump expanding from the pelvic floor through the core line of the body out through the crown of your head. Now bring the belly button to the spine and create that core power, that engagement to the connection to you. And then keep that as you start to open it up. Hips, heart, head, stretch in opposition. Do that 3 times. Curl in. You can make it obvious on the physical. If you really do it on the outer body, make sure the shoulders are widening, the back of the heart is full, but hollow that which is in front into the back. Now let your chin go last, Chris, as you open. So the belly starts to expand and then the ribs rise to lengthen through. All parts of the spine starting to expand open. Bring your right hand fingertips to the floor. Bring your left. Now, as you come down, instead of rolling one vertebra at a time, use your fingertips out in front of you to keep the space in the length of vertical column. So stretch your heart through your arms. As you move your sternum forward, sit your hips further back and see if your belly can elongate. Increasing the curvature of the spine, you've got to get deeper into the hips, deeper into the legs, to allow for the belly to come longer. From here, bring the arms out in front of you and let it be the back of your body that rises you up, the whole heart filling in all directions as you come back up to vertical. Good, Maggie. Push the ribs back, press the head back, come up all the way rising. Okay, relax for a second, watch here. So the first time we came up, we were having hands behind the head and we really took the time to curl. This time, I want us to get into this shape, right, to keep it and to lift from there. So we actually never close the front of the body through this iteration of a forward bend, right? Before, we kind of took it down and we did some rounding and allowed the belly and the spine to kind of soften. For this one, we're going to really use the space and try to mobilize it, holding the back of the body really strong. So separate the feet again. Bring your arms up into that V angle and lean back with your arms pushing forward. Looks really strong, Chris. And now feel that opening. From the right hip, reach through the left arm. From the left groin, push through the right seat, the right extension through your knuckles. And then push the knees forward, send the butt back. And hinging at the hips, go halfway. Go a third. And then a little bit more and a little bit more. And at no point do you just shorten the belly and lose the curves. Once you're at the floor again, I want you to keep your chest, your heart, your front moving so far forward, and then bend and straighten your legs. Yep. So you just bend and extend and notice how that simple action can totally derail all the space you've just dilated inside the ribs. So only straighten your legs so much as you can keep your belly long. I would even bring your feet in a little bit closer, Chris, the teeniest bit. Yep, good. Now instead of going to the furthest, straightest leg that you can find, I want you to go to a place where your entire legs start to shake. No big deal. Bend your knees. And I want you to push your feet forward to sit further back. You might even slide your hands back a little bit. I want you to feel the back of your legs starting to awaken. And then energetically squeeze the lower legs, the heels and the knees towards each other. And I want you to feel the inner thighs start to wake up. And then push the tops of the thighs wide apart from each other and feel the outer thighs start to wake up. Bend your knees a little bit more. Squeeze the lower legs, heels and knees in. The inner thighs wake up. Push the tops of the thighs out. Your butt lifts. The whole of your legs wake up. Hover your heels. When your heels hover, take the weight into your hands. Maybe you just pressure down into a table and lift up onto tiptoes to rise, or maybe you rock forward, lift the heart, rock forward, lift the ribs, rock forward and hop. You might start to spontaneously fly. When you dilate so much, your ribs actually start to hold space you never thought possible. Your wings actually start to show themselves and you begin to fly through gracefully. Life experience, playful conflicts. You're moving with such ease and grace like bamboo. You even welcome a little bit of that disruption so that you know you can get back to center. A few more hops. And even if you're just hopping 1 inch, let yourself rock weight into the arms and keep your heart dilated. So the practice of going from full range of motion of a curled in to a fully open posture is huge. But so too is the practice of taking weight into the arms and then rocking forward to take more weight into the arms. Rocking back, you take less weight, and forward you add more. And you're learning how to add stress, add strength to the whole body without contracting. 1 or 2 more. Just allow yourself to fly and get playful. And then bring yourself back. Yeah, Erin, so fun. Bring yourself back to a tabletop position, but through any expression that you're looking for. Through any playful movement, snake body, side to side pulses, rounding and arcings, back bends, twists, spirals, handstands, headstands, anything you feel, but don't lose the center of the body that you just moved. Notice if you just start to move from your hands or from your chin and you ignore all the space you just made on the inside. Let that become your priority as you focus and as you open, even in transition, and then let yourself come back into all 4 space and bow all the way into a cat shape. Move the ribs away from the floor and simply bring the chin towards the throat. Feel how that allows the more strength and expansion, fullness to open between the upper back. Let the tail come more under for a moment to fortify the front body into the back. And be okay with the sensations that arise there because you want to then open into the strength that will sustain this power. Feel the core lengthen as your hips rise and you stretch and open through the crown. And then lift your knees off the floor and take them to one side and let yourself spiral again onto the side of your body. Slide down onto your side and then spiral onto your backs. And the spiral of really taking your time to work through, good Maggie, 1 vertebra at a time, to slowly articulate little by little. When you come onto your back, you've showed up through the transitions with all of your pieces intact. You have allowed yourself to hold that deep core from point A to B and every step in between. And in this position where you end up where you started, laying on your back, go into the natural wave-like pattern as your hips tip down, your belly lengthens. Coming back to the floor, taking your time, you guys who just popped back in, take your time to transition with all the space inside. So as you come down to your spine on your backs, really articulate each vertebra. Little by little, stretch open the tissues between the bones. And once you're on your back, bending your knees again, please separate your feet to the edges of your mat and bring your hands right at the line of your hip crease, your groin. You can bend your knees, Claire. And as you have the feet pressing into the floor, lift your hips just 1 inch. And push with your hands away from you and squeeze with your knees towards your belly. When your knees come towards you and you're pushing with your hands, stick your butt out. Allow the back of the legs to be a little bit stronger as you set your hips down. Don't lose that engagement up the back of the legs when your hips come down. Cross or open across the back of the heart again, inchworm some space away from the hips. So you're just getting longer and longer with that curvature up the length of your spine. Your neck is tilted. There's space between your lumbar and the earth. Keep your feet nice and wide, and please tip your right knee in towards your right ankle. Towards your left ankle. So it rotates toward midline and gives a big range of motion on the outside of that hip. With your right hand, pull your butt behind again and get it out from underneath you so that you can honor that natural curve in your low back. Let your belly get longer. And then just reach the arms up to the ceiling, pushing them or holding those ropes to allow the head to get heavier and wiggle out a little more distance. You'll notice that the left leg kind of wants to fall to the side. Can you actually recommit through your left foot? Point your left knee to the sky. Can you even widen your left butt to the left? Then place your left ankle on your right knee and give just a teeny bit more downward pressure. Feel the spiral in your lower belly, your lower back. Give rise to more space and length through your crown. 2 breaths. Push in all directions, the ribs wide and into the back. The heart up as you reach, the head tips and expands. And then release the left foot back down to the floor firm, knee to the sky. And then rise the right knee, place the right foot back down to the floor firm and recenter your hips. Bring your hands to the groin lines again, push away from you, hug the knees towards you. This time, hover the hips. And as you push the thighs away, the knees hug in. Keep your feet down, hips hover. There you go. Now, bring your hands to the back of your legs and start to bring a cushion of tissue towards the sacrum and the low back so that when you put your hips on the floor, it's not bone on wood. You bring extra fabric to create a little buffer, and in that, your natural curve is protected. Let the belly get longer. Keep the right foot and knee to the sky. Tip your left knee to the right ankle. With your left hand, pull your left butt out from underneath you and feel that widen that half of your pelvis. Just like each ribs will bring us different information, each side of the hips needs to dilate proportionally, but has very different holding patterns, keeping it in one place, keeping it stoic, static, and even rigid. So as you firmly place the right foot down and broaden the right hip to the right, feel your left hip stabilize wide in opposition. Open, dilate, even the places that would rather remain closed. Right ankle, left knee. Gently pressure the two together and reach the arms to the ceiling to help a little more spiral, give you more length. Press the head back and reach the arms up high, grow, unfurl. Snake your body long out of your hips. When you feel balanced, release the right foot back to the floor, release the left knee to the sky, firm both of your feet to the earth, and fortify your center. Wide open hips, wide open heart, broad through the skull, and pull your knees in. And here you have the option to go all the way back into the closed posture or to separate your knees wide and keep it open. You can even hold behind the knees and start to point the bottoms of the feet to the ceiling like a traditional happy baby pose. But all the while, can you stay long? Even if you notice the low back is flattened slightly, can you still intend more length out through the crown of your head? Not because of your chin, but because of all of that dilated space you've held at the core of your axis to extend earth to sky and beyond. This is the time where you become Princess in the Pea and you create all the movements, wiggles, and adjustments you need before stillness. Stretch your legs out long, pull your hips up, and allow yourself to take wide open space laying on the earth. From back bend to handstand, there's a whole spectrum of practice. Forward bend to arms overhead. There's a whole host of experience that can often be overlooked. But when the whole practice becomes about the center, everything changes. When the arms and the legs move only in service to the full place inside, your life organizes in a different way. Not around the effort that you're making on the surface level, not in the roles that you're playing or the job that you hold or the obligations that you have in this life. But you're organizing around the place that is true and timeless. You're allowing that place to shine its light. Like an orb on the inside, its ambient glow fills you in every direction and beyond the edges. Let a little smile come into your heart. Put that same smile in your mind, even on your lips. And feel the circuitry lighten and work a little less. There is an electronic current pulsing, animating you. And you can turn up the voltage and you can turn it down. You can shut it off all the way or let it shine its brightest light. But to sustain, you must know from where is that current flowing? From where does that energy rise? It's not from any teacher. It's not from any system or one place or one source outside of you ever. From that deepest connected point of condensed energy that is you, unique, important, beautiful. Perhaps this is the real work. The patience to be just as you are. The willingness to put a spacer between you and what's next by holding space inside and to be with yourself. This year will hold so many surprises. Just like last, challenging and enlivening. This year holds so much promise of the unknown. But it can also look just like last year. Iterative, mirroring exactly day after day the same routine on the 2D linear plane, just going forward and never looking side to side or deeply in to create an opening. Maybe it's a crack open, maybe it's a busting through. We're creating space today and all year. We're opening wild. There's nothing I love to do more than grow and share in community, no matter where you are. We can still find one another. Let us first find ourselves. Stay here, please, as long as you are able. Let it fully land, and then bring that space with you into your year. Come see us soon. Our full schedule starts again on Friday. 7 classes a week for our members, and even a 6-week beginners series with Paris, another amazing teacher. There's focused themes for all of our classes and very intentional curriculum to help you grow, not to get good at any one pose, to make it look like something on the outside, but to literally be able to quantify the results, to cause different effects from the inside out. Thank you for being the early adopters, the courageous leaders, the space holders. To each of you, in deepest respect, hope, and opportunity, I bow to your core. Happy New Year. Namaste.